All right, Huskies, we're back and we're doing more on our reading. Today we are working on characters grow and change, so you do need your reading notebook. Open up to your table of contents, and then at the bottom you're going to write out characters grow and change, and then put down your page number. I'm on page 31, and you need to write down the next blank page that you have in your reading notebook. All right, so we talked about character traits, character theories, acting in surprising ways, and we are on characters grow and change. Now, I started this video a little earlier, and I got interrupted, so I have some of the notes down, which means you're going to have to catch up as I'm talking. Remember, you can press pause if you need to make sure that you have time to pause the video and write down what's going on. So when we're talking about a book, whenever we start a book, a lot of times the character will start one way and they'll end up at the end of a story and they'll be completely different. The only exception we have for that is usually our folk tales and our traditional literature. And the characteristic of traditional literature is basically that nobody changes at all. The characters stay the same from the beginning to the end. The rest of our books, the characters grow or change from the beginning to the end of a story. And you do need to go ahead and write that down and underline that word grow and that word change to make sure that you pay attention to it. Once you've had this written down, you're going to turn your notebook to the side, and we're going to make a giant box. I'm going to use that red line up at the top of the margin to follow along, and then I'm going to bring down my line here. I'm going to bring it down on this side, and I'm going to connect those two parallel lines. And then up here at the top, we're going to make a little title section. I want you to write beginning, middle, and end. And then we're going to make another small section right here. And then the remaining large box that we've got right here, we're going to actually split in half. And then we're going to split into thirds. And I know that you guys know how to do this because you just talked about fractions in math. Over here on the left, we're going to label this top section major events. And the next section is going to be our character's response. So how the character responds to that major event is going to decide how that character grows and changes. And the book we're going to talk about is our good old Wadney Wat. And poor Wadney, at the very beginning, if you remember, our character Wadney was shy. He was really shy because he couldn't say his R's. Okay, so he was really shy because he couldn't say his R's. And then in the middle of the book, one of the big events that happened was that Wadney was picked to lead Simon Says. So Wadney led Simon Says. And then at the very, very end, Wadney is already leading Simon Says. And so Wadney gives, I almost ran out of room there, gives directions. So we have Wadney not being able to say his R's. He starts leading Simon Says, and then he starts giving those directions for Simon Says. And we need to stop and think, how did Wadney react to that? What was his actions in the beginning, the middle, and the end? And at the very beginning, I kind of gave you a hint. The very beginning, he was really shy and wouldn't speak because he was so embarrassed. Oops, I can't write wouldn't speak. All right, because he was so embarrassed about how he was acting, how he was speaking. And if you noticed in the pictures for Wadney Wat, Wadney also hides his head in his jacket. Okay. Then we have Wadney leading Simon Says. And when he starts leading Simon Says, Wadney barely can be heard. He had that tiny little squeaky voice, and you really can't hear him when he's talking. But by the time we finish with it, by the time we get to Wadney giving his directions and finishing off those directions that Camilla is following, Wadney yells out so loud he had to hold his own ears. So here at the beginning, Wadney was super shy. He could barely be heard. Even in the middle of the story, he didn't want anybody to hear him speak. But by the end, he'd gotten so much confidence. He was yelling out so loud, he had to hold his own ears. So Wadney changed from the beginning to our middle to our end. As always, if you need to pause this video right now to make sure you catch up on your notes, you are more than welcome to do so. And you need to be prepared to discuss this in class tomorrow.